Mr. President, I know that the board probably has questions and wants to deliberate, but at the appropriate moment, I would like to make a motion. Thank you.
Okay. Board members.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Board members' remarks. Is Supervisor Miley's hand up? Because I see a hand up.
No.
No?
No.
Okay. Supervisor Halbert.
Yes, President Carson, and to everyone who stuck it through the entire meeting, thank you. To the people that presented today from the city, from the A's organization, from the county staff, and from the port. Indeed, it's a long day. I'd like to thank everyone for sticking through and for agreeing to agendize this. As was stated, it's time, I believe, to make a move, whether that's a move to carry the ball further down the field, so to speak, to make progress, to outline next steps. We heard a lot today, and it's time to make that. I've heard a lot of new information, which is great, and I know that we have a lot more information that we have to get at, and I hope that we will do that in earnest. Thank you.
Okay. If the board has no more comments or questions, then we'll entertain a motion.
Mr. President, for the benefit of my colleagues, I have provided this motion in writing, so it's really clear. I'll hand it to my right first. And for the benefit of the public, and Vice President Miley, I'd like to read it out loud. The motion is that the board declares a non-binding intent to contribute a portion, and I want to emphasize, a non-binding intent to contribute a portion of its share of the incremental property tax that will be generated from development of the waterfront ballpark district at Howard Terminal into an enhanced infrastructure financing district to be governed by a public financing authority with members appointed equally by the city and county to be formed over the project site for the purpose of financing eligible on-site affordable housing, public parks, and other infrastructure of community-wide significance, and that a county committee be created consisting of at least 2 members of the Board of Supervisors, the CAO office, the Auditor Controller office, and a third-party CPA firm to conduct the analysis of the proposed project funding funded by the Oakland A's, and that to be brought back to the Board of Supervisors. That's the motion.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second on the floor. Any comments? Supervisor Chan.
Okay, well, it's been a really long day. I want to thank the staff and the speakers. I do want to say to the speakers, there are who think there's nothing to weigh. There is a lot to weigh here. I will support this motion, but I do want to just kind of review the pros and cons of this from my point of view. I think all of us would like the A's to stay. It's not just having a major league baseball team in this area, but the A's have a long history, huge long history in the city of Oakland, and going back many, many years, many decades, and it would be a shame to have them leave. Secondly, the people who said there's no benefit, the land will be used. We've all been out to the site. It's an empty site right now. So the land will become useful, and it will create jobs, which are really important, particularly during the pandemic. But most importantly, this is a non-binding intent. So as County Council said, there'll be future votes, or we could step away from this agreement at any time we want to. In terms of things that I'm going to be looking out for, more on the cautionary side, is I believe there should be more low-income housing on the site, including a certain number of units for very low income. There's going to be 4,000 units, I believe, and only 450 affordable units. So I think a portion of that, certainly, that's a pretty small percentage, could certainly go to very low income. I think that this project has to ensure the vitality of the port and the businesses located nearby. These are all things I'm going to be watching for. Thirdly, I think there has to be a commitment by the project developers to maintain the diversity of that area. I think that with so many market rate condos, I think it would be a shame to see rich out-of-town people come, and those will be the people who are going to be occupying that whole section of town. Oakland has always been proud of its diversity and always wanted to keep that special aspect of the city of Oakland. And fourth of all, I do have to say that I was a little bit alarmed to learn that the A's are going to be charging interest on public money. People say that $450 million or up to $450 million isn't much, but it's about 20% of our whole budget. It is a lot of money, and that money is taxpayer money. It's not money that came from a private firm or from a corporation. It's each of us who live in the county pay taxes on it, and we're supposed to safeguard that money. And I think I just don't think it's right for a for-profit corporation to charge interest on taxpayer money. I feel very strongly about that. But I think we should go forward, so I will support the resolution.
Mr. President, I have a correction to make.
Yes.
I've just learned from County Council the sensitivity of these negotiations. By adding a member of the board, or two members, it would become a Brown Act, a meeting. I'd like to withdraw the portion that reads, consisting of at least two members of the Board of Supervisors, from the motion.
What does that mean?
I'll ask County Council to answer that question.
So I think what Supervisor Valle is saying, that the body that would be created would be an ad hoc committee that would not include two members of the Board of Supervisors, but it would include the CAO, the auditor, and the consulting firm, as he outlined in his statement. But the idea is that it would be an ad hoc committee, because it's a committee that's convened for a limited time, for a limited, specific, narrow purpose. And then they can study it, and it would not be an open and public meeting, but it would allow the county to do the staff work that it needs to do nimbly and quickly, because it could meet without being subject to the formalities of noticing and public comment and a meeting that goes all day like the one we've had today.
There's no committee that can be created. It's already on. There's no committee that can be created that has one or two board members on it that can't meet privately and get work done. If even one board member or two is on it, then it always 100% must be a Brown Act committee, noticed, all meetings open to the public. If there's a committee created by our board, then yes.
Correct.
That's what I'm hearing. Okay. I wasn't aware of that. I guess we don't have a choice then.
I'll ask if the second would approve of my change.
Based on that, just to reiterate again, there's no way to create a committee. The board can create a committee with a member of the board or two that does not require Brown Act. Okay, then I will comply with that, but I'm not sure I'm not sure I understand that fully. But okay.
So are you striking that whole last part, or are you just saying that the CAO, auditor, controller, and third party conduct analysis? And
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yes, and I will amend my second to comply.
Supervisor Miley?
Yeah, thanks, President Carson. Yeah, I got kicked off, couldn't get back in to speak. Let's see here. And so I didn't hear all of the motion. Could I hear the motion again, please?
Absolutely. Let me read it back with the revision. The board declares a non-binding intent to contribute a portion of its share of the incremental property tax that will be generated from development of the waterfront ballpark district at Howard Terminal into an enhanced infrastructure financing district to be governed by a public financing authority with members appointed equally by the city and county to be formed over the project site for the purpose of financing eligible on-site affordable housing, public parks, and other infrastructure of community-wide significance, and that a county committee consisting of the CAO office, auditor controller, and a third-party CPA firm to conduct the analysis of the proposed project funding, funded by the Oakland A's, and to be brought back to the Board of Supervisors.
Okay, thanks for reading the motions. I could hear it in its totality. So I need to ask, so you have the word intent. So legally, I just need to ask County Council, does that word bind us? Because he has intent, not a willingness, he has intent.
So you've used the word non-binding intent. So that, again, that the critical word there is non-binding, and so it is not as it is a little more intentional than the word willingness to consider or the phrase willingness to consider, because you've gone a little bit step further, but it is still non-binding.
Okay. And I just want to thank all the speakers, both the folks who spoke earlier today and then who spoke after the redistricting meeting. And clearly, as some of the speakers have pointed out, people are divided on this issue. I think there's questions on both sides of this, but I think our willingness to at least go further and based on the motion gives the county an opportunity to do more due diligence around this and doesn't hold up any possible progress that could be made that would serve the public interest. So with that being said, I'm supportive of this at this point in time. I would just need to get a sense of, with the motion, if it's approved, do we have any sense when we will hear back on this matter, how long it will take? And then it is the intent of the motion that the A's will pay for the staff costs associated with this.
I don't know that we discussed the timing of it or how long it would take. I guess that would be, it feels like that would need to be meant to be seen. However, I also do agree that, to your point, we set direction, and we as a board need to be very clear about our expectations. We as a board should be asking, I believe, the questions of how long it would take, asking for periodic reports. I, for one, am probably not going to allow myself to go for 4 months without asking for very periodic updates. But that's something that I think needs to be handled by maybe the group that is hired and our staff that we entrust to do the hard work. Maybe we can get a report back quickly as to what that timeline would look like. But I don't know how we could answer that question without first convening or allowing staff to convene that first meeting.
I do
That's just
think
my
it'd be
two
helpful-
thoughts.
I think it would be helpful if, like I said, if the motion's approved, that we get a sense of the timeline and I'm assuming, based on what we heard Dave Calvo say earlier, they'll pay for this, but we need to get confirmation of that and confirmation of the funds associated with it. Because if for some reason the A's aren't going to pay for it, or they're not going to pay for the total cost, then we might need to look at augmenting that for further due diligence. I do think we might want to have an update status report at some point. And then I think the final thing I would say is I think Supervisor Chan mentioned a number of items that I would co-sign, because quite frankly, even with a non-binding intent, if we do get to a place where we're ready to support and move into enhanced infrastructure financing district commitment, that might be conditioned upon certain things having been either fulfilled or being addressed to our satisfaction.
Okay, yeah. Any other final comment, Supervisor Miley?
No, but I want to just thank you, President Carson, for the manner in which you conducted this meeting today.
Thank you. I want to make a couple of comments as well. I want to again go on the record. I started off by saying that I fully support keeping the A's in Alameda County. And as I stated earlier, I fully supported keeping the Warriors here and the Raiders here, but not at just any cost. I want to also go on the record that I also support the estimated 25,000 union jobs that the project is supposed to create on the construction of this massive construction undertaking. So I want to go on record about that. I also fully support the estimated 7,000 union jobs that is highlighted in this proposal. I support that. The thing is, nobody has raised the fact, other than Dave Cavall and the A's, that they are very frustrated at this point in time because it's been 5 years, not 5 months. We've had less than 5 months. It's been 5 years of them sitting at a table attempting to negotiate with the city of Oakland. Everybody's let them off the hook on that. 5 years, but we're getting our butt kicked on 5 months. And this is not even an area where we have, as a county, oversight and a responsibility. That doesn't say that it's not intrinsically a very important project that's needed to revitalize the area. But initially, this board, based on the discussions that we were hearing about 5 years ago, wanted to make it easier for the A's to consummate a deal. So again, I mean, while we're getting our butt kicked for tonight's action, we over 3 to 4 years ago understood that they were trying to get to a yes. And this board took a lot of energy and time to say that we would sell our half interest of the Coliseum in order to make it a smoother trail for the A's to consummate a deal. Because we knew that historically having two public entities with two publicly elected bodies having different points of view has been complicated for the sports groups that we've had here. And so with that, nobody's saying that was a good thing to do. We're being even criticized for that. We sold our interest in order to just pay off our bonds so that the A's would stay here and that there would be a deal. At that point in time, our understanding is that the focus was East Oakland, the Coliseum site, and the information that we were gathering at that time, even though it wasn't our deal, was that that was the site. The fact that they've come up with a different site is a different issue. And no one has seemed to be questioning the fact that it's been the spokesperson for the A's that even today underscored the fact that there are still a lot of outstanding issues and deals for them to consider in this private business deal, and that there are still a lot of unanswered questions on a number of things. At this point in time, we'll be taking an action, and I felt we were about to take that action back in May when we were asked publicly, not privately, not in a letter, and trying to be collegial. No one reached out to us and said, hey, can we talk to you about this? This is what we're thinking. It was done in public, and we were forced to respond to it in public, in which we were supposed to take up back then this whole issue before the city of Oakland, which has the responsibility, took an action. And we had 3 members that were ready to take an action that night without the city of Oakland taking their action around this deal. And here we find ourselves again today, taking an action without having basic information that 5 years the city of Oakland has been dealing with. In less than 5 months, we've been not even given the majority of information that's needed around this. But today, even the spokesperson for the A's have said there's a lot of unanswered questions that they still have. But we're willing to get out there and put our monies out in front. We have not heard where they are in the entitlement approvals. We have not heard where they are in the environmental impact report. We have not heard where they are on the design standards and general plan amendments. We have not heard where they are on the development agreements. Again, this being a private business deal with a large corporation, they even stated on the record several times that we were never a part of this deal. They never had considered the county pitching in its money in order to deal with this. That meant to me that they had had their financial advisors, independent of the city of Oakland, being able to cost out not only the projected project, $6 billion project, but they also had some sense of where the revenues would come from in order to do that. And for all of this to be totally focused on the county's $355 million out of a $6 billion development deal, $6 billion and $355 million of county money being the linchpin to this program, says to me that the city of Oakland didn't give any consideration for other options. They put all of their eggs in one basket. I know our county administrator and our department heads always have options for how we finance things. I mean, that's only reasonable, that this is the only way to finance that, through having us participate in the Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District, and that we give up $355 million of potential revenue going forward, is the only way to do that. I have a hard time that there are not any serious consideration. Even today, we question what the revenue streams were, and are going to be there. But yet and still, we said we will take a non-binding vote to say, take our revenues going forward. What are our revenues used for? People are saying this is very easy, and it may be easy to say do it, but what are our revenues being used for? Our revenues are being used to try to keep our hospitals open. And it's a matter of fact, it's a matter of public record that there are some that are on the brink of closing that provide life and death situations to individuals. That's what our constitutional statutory responsibility is, and that's what these monies go for. Our monies are to make sure that we feed people, and I would like to put up right now a picture that I just took over the weekend. And if you can recall, the weekend, it was raining cats and dogs. And this photo is showing a group of people who've been standing in a line, senior citizens, trying to wait to get food 2 days ago here in Oakland, California. And that is only a part of that line. Our responsibility has been around feeding individuals. We put over $100 million over the last year in terms of making sure that people got fed. Fed. That's now, that's not 5 years, and that's not 10 years, that's now, that people get fed. We put our money into making sure that we kept people housed, because that's our responsibility. But we're going to gamble away. Matter of fact, one of the things that's been really kind of gnawing at me lately is the dedication of our staff since COVID has been around. And every single day, people have been trying to figure out how to make it happen, how to serve the people in terms of their needs. And the fact that we oversee public hospitals, the analogy I want to use is that we've been in the surgery room almost every single day trying to keep patients alive, and now we're being asked to go to Las Vegas and play the one-armed bandit. We're being asked to go to Las Vegas and play the one-armed bandit when our responsibility is to stay in the surgery and to try to keep and save as many people as possible. So this is very hard for me to say that I can support something in which originally people said they didn't need our financial support. There's been no effort to say there are alternatives in case we don't get it. It's if we don't get your money, it ain't going to happen, and you're the ones who have the albatross around your neck. You caused the A's to leave. You caused us to not be able to have the 25,000 jobs. You caused this county to not be able to have 7,000 jobs. That bothers me, because a prudent elected official would have options for that. And I got to believe there are other ways in which they can come to the financing on this deal. So I know this is non-binding in terms of what you're saying, but we know, let's just be honest with each other. Once we take a political non-binding position, it's almost impossible for us to take that back. And I think that I have to be honest with myself to say that my position is going to be up front. And that is not to support this because of the fact that I know that even if it goes through, and I know that there's a lot of hurdles to go over, that even if this goes through, we're really risking and taking dollars away from people who we have the responsibility to oversee. That's now. That's not in 45 years. Those people may not have 45 years. So I'm not going to be supporting the measure, the motion. You can call the roll.
Supervisor Howard,
Aye.
Supervisor Valle,
Aye.
Supervisor Chan, Supervisor Miley,
Aye.
President Carson.
No.